Prime bid has a setup with divisions and sections of work where the sections of work have the category costs in them. This level of detail rolls up from the sections to the divisions and can be summarized, or the section level of detail can be displayed. There is another level of detail beneath a section called a scope item. It's analogous to estimating software having takeoff items underneath a phase of work. Scope items in PrimeBid can be the same thing as a takeoff item in estimating software, but typically is more like a detailed element that is used for a bid adjustment. Going to a matrix, I see a group of sections of work that are being bid in packages, which might have bidders crossing multiple sections of work or doing individual sections, and a bid analysis taking place. A part of completing the bid analysis is to have all of the scope for the sections accounted for. You can tell that there's a scope items worksheet on this matrix for each of the sections by seeing the little A in parentheses after the category identifier. If I go in and want to change this scope items list or set it up from the beginning, I can highlight the section of work that I'd like to edit the scope items worksheet for, right-click, and from the menu pick the Edit Scope Items Worksheet option. This will bring up a scope items worksheet which can have one or even hundreds of scope items attached to it that will be used to identify adjustments to the bid based on included or excluded scopes that might affect the outcome in comparison to other bidders. This particular fire protection section has 3 scope items set up for it: outside fire line connection, Siamese connector, and testing and certification. The values are put in very simply by typing in the code, a description, quantity, and a default unit price. As a result, if I were editing this bid file and I had not included by unchecking the item included checkbox during the input of the bid, this bid would be adjusted by $5,000. And a summary of the adjustments would be added up and show me the total bid scope item adjustment for this bid. Now, scope items can be added on the fly during the bid process. They can be modified. Custom unit prices or custom amounts for each bid can be put in while the bid is being put in, so that that bid exactly represents the bid that you've received via fax. If I accept this and close it, there is now a new scope item attached to this section, and I can review them. The scope items will show up here during the bid input phase and show up in the vertical view as rows underneath the section. In this case, you can see the description, the name of the scope item that I created, with its quantity and unit displaying a preliminary value or default value, and then see if that is being included or excluded in the bids by the check marks or the value. On the vertical view, you can change the scope item at any time by clicking on the value or the check mark and then double clicking. That will take it to the default value, immediately adjust the bid with that amount, recalculate the worksheet, and a custom value can be put in that also will do the same thing and show us the total bid amount. In the vertical view, you can see the total adjustments at the top line of the bottom analysis area, and you can see the total bid amount and the total matrix solution using that subcontractor. Going back to the horizontal view by closing this view, you can also see at your discretion the total scope adjustment amount for each bid, which allows you to evaluate how much adjustment has been used in order to qualify this bid and come to the total. In this case, by making the adjustments that we made, the bids were exactly the same, and so it selected the very first one. In this case, I might choose to use Viking instead of Western State, since I arrived at Viking's number with less adjustments and therefore have a better qualified bid. Now, scope items can be changed. They can be reviewed in the section spreadsheet. There are specialized filters. And during the importing of information from estimating software, you can export sections of work, or phases as they may be called, with the takeoff items and import them into PrimeBid so that those phases of work show up as the sections and the takeoff items show up as the scope items inside of PrimeBid. This is very handy in your review of the completeness of the bids and helps you take care of scope adjustments. You can also use the vertical view grid as a method to create a bid report which would show you the different sections of work with their scope items, the amount, and notes. This bid report could be transferred to the subcontractors. They could fill in this information and send it back to you so that you would have a detailed bid from them according to the scope that you had created on your worksheet. In a competitive bid, oftentimes the only scope items are ones that are directly going to adjust the lump sum bid amount. In a negotiated or design build bid, they may very well identify the scope of work, which would be more obvious in a hard bid, but direct the subcontractors to bid the entire area of work for the trade that they're bidding. In PrimeBid, the scope items are very handy and they help you come to a very fine-tuned analysis of the bid and the bidding process.